All right, you guys. Ja Morant has been traded to the Portland Trailblazers out of all teams. And Kawhi Leonard back to Toronto. We're going to talk about all these NBA trades that seem to be going down right before free agency. Let's do that. All right, so the news of the day is that Ja Morant is officially done in Memphis. He has been traded to the Portland Trailblazers, a team that we talked about on yesterday's podcast a little bit. At first, I was kind of all for it, and then I talked myself out of it. I'll explain all that in my reasoning and how I feel about this trade. Going back the other way for the Grizzlies is Jeremy Grant. Obviously, the salary, they need salary to match. He's got a big contract. Solid two-way player, not the best in the league, but not a bad player to have if you're the Memphis Grizzlies. And Chris Murray, who honestly I had to look up because I didn't really know who he was, and he's Keegan Murray's brother, and he's a bench guy, essentially. So not much return for the Memphis Grizzlies. I don't understand how Ja had this little value, as I talked about in the last podcast. I think that guy is a phenomenal basketball player. Does he have his flaws on the court? Absolutely not the best defender, not a great three-point shooter, but explosive, super exciting, can finish at the rim. I mean, a point guard, he's not like a ball hog type of point guard either. And his downfall has been insane to me. Obviously, off the court, there's been issues and whatnot. But, when you've got other guys around the league that are, I would say have even worse things off the court, getting traded for better value. It's shocking to me that this is all Memphis could get. Now, is he going to stay in Portland? Because I saw a report from Kevin O'Connor from Yahoo Sports talking about whether this might be the prequel to a trade for Jaylen Brown, and they were just getting Ja to kind of set up that trade for Jaylen Brown. Here's the thing. I do, obviously the rumors are Jaylen Brown to Portland and that could work out. And I think that basketball-wise would be a great fit. But I can't get past the fact that the Blazers have a new owner who people are constantly bashing, talking about him being cheap and not treating the players well. And during the playoffs, if you remember, he didn't want to pay for late checkout and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just going to say this. Politics aside, obviously, all that ugliness that people get into, I don't understand how a guy like Jaylen Brown would literally work like at work for a guy like the new owner of the Portland Trailblazers, who Jaylen Brown always seems to be complaining about the teams not treating them right. And Celtics didn't treat him like the star player, and he's come out and kind of played the victim in many situations, even though he won Eastern Conference Finals MVP, and he still felt underappreciated. I don't know how he's not going to feel underappreciated if he's on a team where the owner doesn't want to pay for late checkout for the players. So that part of it, obviously, look, there's been ownership and players that don't mesh, and it's been fine on the court basketball-wise. But I would just think that off the court-wise, Jaylen Brown would be a lot happier sticking around in Boston under that ownership group than going to Portland. So I'm just putting that, little tidbit in there because that's something I don't know how that would work, because Jaylen Brown just always does seem to be playing the victim and complaining about not getting the credit he deserves and not being treated like the superstar. And if the hotel workers are coming to the room telling you need to check out because checkout was 20 minutes ago, I'm not sure you're going to be feeling like the biggest superstar ever if that's what's happening, because the owner didn't want to pay for late checkout. So we'll see. Obviously, that's minor in the sense of the grand scheme of things with basketball stuff, but we'll see. And if Josh stays there, this is the part that I obviously liked initially when I was talking about Portland being one of the possible destinations for Ja Morant, is that you're essentially taking a one-year flyer, seeing if he can help you reach the next level. Obviously, Portland had a nice run last year, made the playoffs, but they played essentially the Western Conference champs in the Spurs and got knocked out in 5 games. So, you think to yourself, hey, we didn't have Dame Lillard. We didn't have Ja Morant. Now we have 2 all-star level guards that why couldn't they propel us to make a run in the West, right? I mean, the team suddenly looks a lot better. But then you also, the reason I talked myself out of it is because I just didn't think that around Dame, and again, Dame's older now too, so you can't expect Dame to just be the same. I mean, the last time we saw him, he was in Milwaukee, and it wasn't Portland level Dame Lillard, and this is 2 years later, right? So when I think of the Blazers now, the reason I started talking myself out of it is because I didn't see the 3-point shooting there around Ja Morant. Now, obviously, can Dame play off ball and be a spot shooter? Of course. But that would mean he would have to change the whole way that he used to play basketball. And maybe there's a world in which they can play together, but they're also small. So defensively, this will be an issue. Neither of them is considered a top defender or a great defending guard. And if you look at, let's take a look at that Portland roster now. It's one of those things that where's the shooting going to come from? Now, look, they relied heavily last year on defense. They also had Thiago Splitter, which again, the owner didn't want to pay. So Jaylen Brown, you're going to want an extension. We'll see if the owner's going to want to put up that money for you. You got Toumani Camara, Denny Advia, obviously, who had a great season, but he also likes to have the ball in his hands. So who's playing off ball? And it's probably going to have to be Dame. So that's the thing when I look at Portland, and that's why I kind of agree with Kevin O'Connor that maybe this is a prequel to a bigger trade. Now, I just mentioned the reason why maybe the Jaylen Brown trade might have some friction off the court, but basketball-wise, I think that fit is a lot better if you're, starting 1, 2, 3 guards are going to be Dame Lillard, Jaylen Brown, and Denny Advia. That makes a lot more sense than Dame Lillard, Ja Morant, and Denny Advia. And so maybe this is, getting salary in return to ship him out with some young assets like Scoot Henderson, someone like that maybe that you will send now to Boston along with Ja Morant to fill the salary needed to get Jaylen Brown back. But then I would just ask myself, why couldn't they just have done that with Jeremy Grant in the first place? But maybe the Celtics are a team that said, why not take a chance on Ja Morant? Like I said, I don't know why his value was this low. If any team that could use a point guard, I would take a chance on Ja Morant. The way he's got 2 years left on his deal, the way I see it, it's 1 year left because that second year he's expiring. And that means that any team that's, maybe a bad team, why wouldn't they? Look at the Wizards last year. They took on Anthony Davis and Trae Young, right? So why couldn't the Celtics take on Ja Morant, take on that salary as they ship out Jaylen Brown, get some picks in return, and next year take a shot with Ja Morant running the point, and you got Jason Tatum still, Derek White still. So that's the type of team that I think Ja Morant needs to be on, is a team that can shoot around him and that can play solid defense. So we'll see. Again, and, Jason Tatum's a great defender. Derek White's a great defender. So that would make more sense. Maybe that's what Kevin O'Connor was referencing, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's right about that. And again, if he does stay in Portland, I don't think it's a bad trade for the Blazers because, again, why not take a flyer on Ja Morant? Maybe he, plays great. The city falls in love with him. Him and Dame coexist, and now you just wait for your young guys to maybe they have a little run. They make it to the second round of the playoffs next year. And now really you're just looking for a shooting big, and you might feel like you can contend now. Their bigs are Donovan Clingan. Shaedon Sharpe is still on that team. Robert Williams is still on that team. But again, Robert Williams doesn't really stay healthy. But you got Jan Hansen, the rookie last year that people would calling that he played a lot like Jokic. Maybe he develops. So again, there's no downside for me with this trade for the Blazers. And for the Grizzlies, I really don't understand why they needed to trade Ja Morant. I get it that they're going young, but I mean, I don't get it. That you're not getting much value back, not even one first-round pick. So that's crazy. So that's the news today. Ja Morant, obviously now a Portland Trailblazer for now. We'll see how long that sticks. As for the other news, obviously been circulating around the league a lot, has been Kawhi Leonard. Is he going back to Toronto? Now, as you guys probably know, I have followed the Raptors my whole life. They were my favorite team growing up. And I will say that so far, I've liked the way that Toronto's front office has handled this. They haven't budged. I've read reports that they're not going to include or toy with the idea of including CMB. Absolutely. He should be off the table. Jacoby Walter, who many people maybe don't even know much about, but he had, I thought, a solid playoffs in his second year. I thought he developed a lot, grew into a great player that you expect to continue to grow and get even better. So I would have him off the table. Those are two guys on rookie deals still, essentially, that I think could be core pieces for the franchise moving forward. So I would not include them. And so far, they haven't. And from what I've seen, they've been willing to budge with 1 first-round pick and maybe a pick swap, but not 2 first-rounders straight up for Kawhi. And, I like that leverage because at the end of the day, it's not, it's not just that you're trading to get Kawhi. You're going to have to pay Kawhi. And that is leverage for Toronto to use against the Clippers. Essentially, the Clippers are shopping him because they don't want to pay him. So if I'm Toronto, I'm going to say, hey, I'm doing you a favor by being the one who's going to pay him. Now, is he a phenomenal player? Of course. But is he older? He's 35. I think he turned 35 years old today. So the way I see it is, hey, we're taking a chance here. We'll give you fair compensation, but we're not going to go over the top for a guy that we already are going to have to pay a max salary to, and a guy that's older. And, we don't even know if he could stay healthy for the whole season. So the trade package I've seen has been Brandon Ingram, Grady Dick, which Ingram is a, salary, essentially. I think he's a fine player. He's no Kawhi Leonard. But if you're the Clippers, why not? The Clippers aren't looking like a team that's going to be contending for a championship next year. So you take the salary back and, see what happens there with Ingram. I mean, you can take on that salary and let him be a part of the team for now. But really for the Clippers, you're just looking for future assets rather than losing Kawhi for nothing because he's entering into his last year of his contract. And, neither side, they don't want to pay him, and he doesn't want to play on the last year of his deal without an extension because if he has an injury, prone season or an injury this year now, he's not going to be able to get much money next offseason because the injuries would accumulate and add up. So I don't think Kawhi is wanting to leave LA, but I think due to the circumstance, they don't want to pay him. He's willing to leave LA, and as he's made it known, willing to leave only to Toronto, which is a huge plus for the Raptors. That's leverage for the Raptors, and Kawhi is smart because he wants to win as well. And he's saying, hey, if I, take leverage away from the Clippers here and give leverage to my new team, essentially Toronto, at least if I go there, I still have a chance to win because they won't be giving up too much to get me. That way I can still contend with the guys that are there. And like I said, if the Raptors do get Kawhi in a trade that essentially just includes Brandon Ingram and Grady Dick and a first-round pick swap, even if it became 2 first-round picks, I don't know how you don't, how you're not competing for, to be the best team in the East next year. It's actually a very similar, the way I see it, is similar layout to the Raptors championship run, right? Jacoby Walter, like I said, he's no Danny Green, but he's no Danny Green yet. But that kid can shoot. He plays good defense. So, you have him as a shooter. Jamal Shed reminds me a lot of young Fred VanVleet. If you watch him play, he's a dog. You saw him in the playoffs diving for loose balls, being gritty, just like Fred was when he was with Toronto. Scotty Barnes, obviously. You could compare him to Pascal Siakam in that championship year if you want. And then big-wise, I mean, yes, CMB is not as big as Serge Ibaka or, as big as Marc Gasol was on that championship team, but he's still a big. And defensively is the part that people are sleeping on. Look, everyone thinks of Kawhi, and he hit that, buzzer beater shot in Game 7 against Philly to send the Raptors to the Eastern Conference Finals. But defensively, that's the reason his nickname's the Claw, is because he's a hell of a defender. And if you run a lineup of Jamal Shed, Kawhi Leonard, CMB, Scotty Barnes, I'm missing someone, but you could plug in anyone there. Jacoby Walter is a good defender too. That's going to be a top defense in the NBA. And defense wins championships. So if you're Toronto, I don't want to get too excited about it because at the end of the day, if you're the Clippers and you don't like the trade, you could decide to pay him And essentially that now opens the door. You buy yourself time to trade him and see if the market value for Kawhi goes up. Because if you extend him, maybe he plays the first half of the season and he's playing great basketball, averaging 30 points per game. And now at the trade deadline, maybe a team that feels like they're right there to make a run decides to take a chance and trade for a Kawhi Leonard who would be under contract. So at that point, the team would feel like they have leverage, like he's going to have to play for them. What's he going to do? Sit out and leave $100 million on the table? So that's the game. That's the game of chicken that the Raptors and the Clippers are currently playing. But at the end of the day, if I'm the Raptors, I'm not budging much more than that. I don't need Kawhi Leonard right now because you're still a young team ascending. So, you can call the Clippers bluff and say, hey, you know what? If you don't like this trade package now, then go ahead, pay him. Put him on your books, pay him and take that chance. But if Kawhi does get hurt, now the Clippers double down into a bad contract. And now if you can't even get out of that contract, now you're in the Ja Morant situation where you're going to have to trade him later for less assets or be stuck with a contract if the guy's injured that now hinders your chance of success or moving forward in the next 3 seasons. So we'll see who wins out. I think it does seem ultimately like he will be back in Toronto. Hard not to get excited if you're a Raptors fan because, like I said, it's just even just those 3 guys, CMB, Scotty Barnes, and Kawhi Leonard, defensively, you feel like, yeah. I didn't even mention the other guys that they have on that team that are solid players. They're not great players, but you got RJ Barrett still on that team. You got Emmanuel Quickly still on that team. You got Jakob Poeltl still on that team. And you got to get rid of some of these contracts. But at that point, you would go into the second apron with that team. Think about how deep that team is. I mean, I could name, again, Jamal Shed, Jacoby Walter, Kawhi Leonard, CMB, Scotty Barnes, Emmanuel Quickly, RJ Barrett, Jakob Poeltl. That's 8 guys already that are pretty much borderline starters, 6 men at best, right? 8 of them. I didn't include the rookie Allen Graves that they just got. So, again, and they have other pieces that played, playoff minutes last year. I mean, AJ Lawson played some playoff minutes. Jamison Battle played some, not guys that you would think would crack this rotation, but I'm saying guys that have played. So, again, I think this Raptors team is, if they make this Kawhi move, look out in the East, especially, obviously, if he stays healthy. So, we'll see how it goes. Free agency starts tomorrow, I believe. So, a lot of news. I'll be on here talking about a lot of NBA news in the coming days, I'm sure. Maybe even tonight. Maybe Kawhi Leonard is a Raptor by the time you watch this. Talk to y'all soon.